What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Martian and Ozzy podcast. I am the Martian, joined by my co-host, as always, Ozzy. And this week, we're going to be talking about the Krylov versus Spann card going down this weekend from the UFC Apex. 13 fights going down. Last card in February. And how we doing this week, my man?
Very well, getting ready for a nice little vacation. Great MMA week this week. Definitely like the whole slate, including the Bellator card, a lot more than last week's. But last week, went pretty well for a lot of people, for sure. A few good live betting situations, I feel. And just overall, it wasn't too many like weird outcomes. But I like this card, entertainment wise, this week. So, hopefully we could unearth some gems along the way.
That is true. Agree with all that. Last week was a good one. Track bets were good for me. Plus 3.6 units. Both money lines came through. The parlay came through. Only bet that really lost was that Elder and Nazim over,
Oh,
which you got killed on as well. I mean, I don't think that was like a good bet or anything, but it was also on its way to winning in just a few minutes. So
yeah,
um,
plus money over at the 150. I mean, I feel like both guys, although it was a very high paced fight and there was like a knockdown or two, they weren't like hit. They're both so good. Especially Nazim. I really like Nazim's game. That their defense while they were exchanging allowed them to not get hit. Really flush. They were definitely landing strikes on each other, but the striking I thought was a really good display by both guys and the mixing and the wrestling as well.
yeah, that fight was a banger. It's a shame it ended, but pretty crazy that all three judges gave Elder that round two there. I thought that was Nazim.
Yeah, I had a hard time scoring that fight. I was like, man, it looked really close to me. I didn't get involved live on it at all. I did have a little bit of Nazim, but obviously I had that over and it goes the distance on that one, so that was no good. And
UFC better
I
give
had
Elder another fight.
I had that. Oh yeah, he definitely got another fight. I had that happen to me and fucking the Figueredo, him getting stopped with his eye. So
Yeah.
that's two overs that plus money that were looking pretty good and get stopped. Literally immediately too because Figueredo got caught with that punch like right at towards the end of the round. I don't remember when it was, but it was immediately over after they looked at his eye even a little bit.
Yeah, the money lines were good for me though. Prochnio, I got a terrible price on Prochnio, but obviously he's still covered.
Man, that was a
Jamal
crazy
Emmers,
fight. That
Jamal
Praxio fight was a
Emmers,
crazy
that
fight.
line was off by a country mile. Just crazy line on
Yes.
Emmers
Thank you
there.
for that. I ended up joining you when it got to above plus 150. I was like, all right, I got to get in on this. And that was dominant performance. That guy sucks. That Russian dude is
Yeah,
terrible.
total fraud. I mean, uh, blatant. And then these parlays, I'm not doing one this week. I'm not, but last week's parlay, I mean, all three legs covered by a mile. Carpenter, Fletcher, Pauga. I found my sweet spot with them, so I'll be continuing to look out for them in the future. But this card, only two big favorites: Selecki's minus 600, Suarez minus 800. I don't think there's one minus 200, but every other fight, 11 fights are like in the plus 100, 100 and something range. So a lot of competitive fights here. Definitely some bets to be made. Um, and let's get right into it. I already got some action for this card. We'll be adding more, but we're starting things off hot in the bantamweight division. Jose Johnson taking on Garrett Armfield. The line for this one: Armfield minus 160, Johnson plus 140. So I already bet Johnson here. I like him in this spot. And first off, I'll admit the guy is a pretty terrible wrestler, right? Pretty much any takedown attempt this guy faces, he will get taken down. But it seems his fighting style, he understands that he's not a good wrestler, and he focuses on how can I, still win fights while getting taken down. So you'll see a few things he does. You see him jump submissions from time to time, which isn't the best thing. You see him, push off the hips and stand up, hit some butterfly sweeps and stand up. And the best thing I like about him is every time this guy gets taken down and he gets back up to his feet, he realizes that he's losing the round and he realizes that I need to make something happen now to put something in the eyes of the judges and make something happen, hurt this guy with some punches. And that's exactly what he does. He gets on guys and hurts them with shots. I think his distance striking is good. His clinch striking is nasty. And this guy just looks to put damage on you from bottom, from distance, and in the clinch. So I just think this guy is going to be dangerous everywhere. Armfield, he looks like an all right fighter. I think he's an all right striker, all right grappler, but I just don't think he's nearly proven enough to warrant this price on Johnson. He gassed out in a few fights. He doesn't really have a good track record late in fights, and I just think if for a guy to beat Johnson, he's going to have a good 15-minute, relentless wrestling attack. And Armfield's cardio and his grappling is nowhere near proven enough to warrant this price tag. So I might actually add some more to my Johnson bet because the line is going against us here. And what are you thinking on this one, Ozzy?
We're in cahoots, obviously, on the first fight of the night. Loved Johnson in the fight against Cartwright. He came through there. Obviously, it was a crazy fight, but literally every fight that Jose Johnson's in is absolute chaos from the beginning, and doesn't stop either to decision or somebody gets finished. And he's fought the much higher level competition. He's got double the fights of Garrett Armfield professionally. That's not to mention he's got like a shitload of amateur fights as well, and he just knows who he is and how he needs to win fights. Some people might not like it because they're like, "Oh man, you got to like dominate, you got to do, you got to Khabib guys and stuff like that." But Jose knows. Like I was in jiu-jitsu actually recently with one guy was like, "Oh man, like I'm not going to learn these kind of takedowns whatever because, it just doesn't suit my body type or I don't think I'm going to be able to perform it." And Jose is kind of similar to that. He has preferred to work on his guard game and his bottom game. And one thing that you were mentioning today was his butterfly guard. So it's not only like that the guy's got like the long legs where he's like getting triangles, right? You saw that on Mo Miller, or he's throwing elbows and he's kind of just being really really hard to hold on bottom. He kind of brings those legs in and is able to also use those sweeps, either off balance guys to get back up or give him space, or get the reversal, which you don't always see with Muay Thai strikers or long guys, right? It's like a two pronged negative, right? He's like a Muay Thai guy and he is really really long and kind of skinny, but he's used it to his advantage. And I think I mean, obviously he's just way more dangerous than Garrett Armfield. You don't win fights in the UFC anymore with I'm just gonna hold him, I'm just gonna hug the guy, from on top. And I just feel like it's going to be a long night for him. Now, Garrett, he can strike as well. So I'm not even too sure that it will definitely just be grappling because I think in the Mateo Vogel fight, although Vogel obviously was a really good grappler, they struck a lot in that fight. So I think he'll definitely mix it in. But like you said, his conditioning is not the best. His top control, I don't think is really great. He doesn't throw ground and pound. Like there's multiple fights that I've seen of him where he does get takedowns, but it's not like he's really looking to finish the fight, looking to drop ground and pound. I don't really know about his submission game. So I think Jose Johnson, I mean, could is really going to kill this guy. Like I've been going back and forth with some guys that obviously feel that Garrett is a good side, but he's just not that reliable. Obviously, he is young as well, so I think maybe he could be making improvements. But he pulled out his last fight. He had like a staph infection. I think that made him go back and leave Black Zillions or whatever they call it, Kill Cliff for a little bit. So I like Jose Johnson here. I like him on the money line. I like him to knock Garrett Armfield out, maybe potentially. But yeah, I just think that he just has so many more ways to win. Even if the fight goes to a decision, I think he's comfortable with that. And I think Garrett's gonna be really tired after a little bit, trying to control Jose and being close to him. And Jose's just to put so many shots off on him. This as the first fight. Great first fight. I'm actually be in the Dominican Republic, so hopefully my boy Jose can represent for DR, keep us undefeated in the UFC, and yeah, get us on the right side of plus money on the first fight of the night.
Yeah, we're really excited about this one. Two more points I'll just add though. Johnson, no scorecards, is plus money. I just think he's way more likely to finish here. And this late round optics we see with MMA judging, I think really favors us here. The last 30 seconds, 60 seconds of a round are worth way more than the first few minutes. So I think some late flurries here are good for us, betting Johnson. So moving along to the women's bantamweight division, Haley Cohen, Allen-Perez. Line for this one, Cohen minus 125, Perez plus 105. Perez getting some action early on this week. What are you thinking about this one?
Yeah, so I mean Haley, she, in her contender fight, she fought a girl that I kind of think is a bit similar to Perez overall. Just I mean, what's her name? Ribeiro, Claudia Ribeiro, right? Was that was her name? Yeah,
It was like
Ribeiro.
Caliche.
Yeah,
wasn't it?
misremember her name. I don't know, whatever. It doesn't matter. She fought a Brazilian there. The Brazilian, she didn't have great striking, but she was a pretty good grappler and, got it to the ground on a few occasions. And, Haley is a big girl. So, I mean, overall, I just think this fight's going to be close. So, just because Haley is just so young. Yeah, it was a Lete, my bad. These Brazilians, though, they be having like four last names. Um, so I just think it's gonna be a close fight. Haley's really big, but because and athletic, but because she's so young in her career, and I don't know how developed she is, she kind of doesn't really string together a lot of her techniques or strategy, too well. I do feel All In is more of a natural fighter and more comfortable. She is like fine with kind of like scrapping and kind of reversing positions in the clinch and doing these things where Haley sometimes just makes like flat out mistakes. Whereas All In, I just think just puts her like she's just getting caught. It's not necessarily a mistake. I just think that's like the level of fighter she is. Like, for example, how she lost to Stephanie Egger. So I'm not really interested in either side of these girls overall. I would probably pick Haley just because I think that she could keep range a little bit, throw some kicks in there. Uh, I would only be worried if she got taken down here. But if it's on a feet, I just see a lot of clinching and All In not being able to win on big margins. So I'm not going to be betting on this fight or taking All In at the plus money. But yeah, so just a pass for me overall. But I do think this fight potentially probably goes to decision. So
Yeah, I had to pass on this one. Yeah, I think the goes the distance is probably good. I think Perez has more finishing equity here. So yeah, I mean she's the underdog in the no scorecard markets. I kind of disagree with that. I mean, to me, Cohen's main objective in MMA looks to be to push her opponent against the cage. And I mean, she doesn't really land strikes. She doesn't take women down and keep them down. I think her game is just really, negative overall, and it leads to pretty much all her wins gonna be like a close decision. Um, the way that this woman got armbarred too in that one fight of hers, she was like a huge favorite, right? Yeah, Kelly Clayton, pathetic. Oh no, it was a guillotine, but anyway, she got rocked with a punch there, and she got choked out. I mean, I just think that Cohen is awful, honestly, and Perez is awful as well, but at least Perez seems to have like an objective that she goes into every fight with. She wants to take women down. She wants to get on top of them. And she does that, fairly successfully in most of her fights. I thought the Edgar performance was actually a pretty valiant one. She came in on short notice, biggest fight of her life against a fairly legit woman. Up a weight class too, so she just looked like she was out of shape for that fight, and she was still able to, survive some positions,
they
reverse
fought
some
at
kind of.
145. You
Yeah, it
say?
was 145.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I just think Perez's game makes a lot more sense. She's trying to take people down and get on top of them. And with how bad Cohen looked on bottom versus Leche, I think Perez has to be the side here plus money. But it's also such a gross bad fight that you're probably better off just not placing any of your money on it. But if you're feeling a little risky on this one, I think Perez at plus money is the side. And that's going to take us to the lightweight division next. Narulo Aliev taking on Rafael Alves. The odds for this one: Aliev minus 179, Alves plus 154. I'll keep this one pretty short. I mean, Aliev is a lay and pray artist. I mean, this guy takes people down, and he sits in guard. He does not pass guard. That's like an objective of his is to not pass the guard. And I think that's actually pretty good for him in this fight because Alves, he's kind of, a meme finish fighter. He doesn't really do well late in fights. He doesn't have a lot of process. He kind of just tries to hit some big flying knee or something. And if it doesn't work, maybe he tries to choke you out. But I mean, this guy kind of gives up late in fights, in my opinion, too. So I think Aliev's just going to take him down and lay on him the entire fight. If Alves doesn't make a finish happen in round one, he's probably screwed here. So I think this is Aliev, all day. Only thing I can see it for a betting angle is maybe Aliev round two, round three, with how I mentioned Alves kind of quits. And if Aliev just decides to throw strikes, I mean, I don't see Alves getting off his back. So round two, round three, plus 700, plus 1,000, not bad for Aliev, but not much of a fight I have much conviction on. How about you?
I love Aliev in this fight. The guy's 23 years old. This is my only bet that I've put in so far. Minus 170 on Aliev. I'm also probably going to add in a small number or a small bet on him just in ITD, maybe a bit bigger than I'm planning on right now because Alves has been finished. He's got 11 losses and he's been finishing 10 of them. So the guy folds the 10th. And I think a lot of people haven't grappled with Russians, but a lot of times when you lock up with them, you start grappling with them, it makes you want to fold the tent. And I think that's what's gonna happen here. Aliev, he obviously his striking is not very refined yet, but he's got the Russian blitz, down pat. Like he knows kind of how to throw. He's fine being in space. He doesn't mind it too much, and he chucks some hammers out there. And it's all to kind of set up the wrestling and the takedowns. And the issue with Alves is, if you saw that Drew Dober fight, right, they're in the big cage there, and most of the fight after that, like initial burst, like when he kind of got the takedown early on and was holding on to Dober and kind of went for his neck and stuff like that. After that, this guy's on the fence the whole time, circling away from Drew Dober, and never really has the intention of kind of coming off the fence, too much. Like he's kind of trying to just counter and stuff like that. But what's gonna happen with Aliev is they know this, and they're just gonna be feinting him, throwing some straight strikes, and then getting in on the takedown or the clinch. And the guy went down from a body shot. He got hit a few times in the body. Obviously, he got kicked to the liver, and then that left hand to the solar plexus. But I mean, it just showed you again, once again, like the guy's a quitter. Like he just, if the going gets a little too tough, like he's not really either the will to win leaves, or he just kind of like his chances diminish so crazily that I'm just not seeing him guillotining this Russian. This Russian is super hyped as well. They're calling him the next Khabib, and I don't think he's a fraud like the last Russian. And he's also not Russian. He's from like one of the stands. Which
I
one is he from?
have
Tajikistan?
no
I think
clue.
it's Tajikistan.
Azerbaijan, maybe?
No, I don't think it's one of the stands. I'm pretty sure. He's
It
the
is Tajikistan, yeah.
Tajikistan, yeah. So I like him. I think he's got potential in the UFC as well. So I think this guy's gonna pick up a lot of wins. I think this is a fair. This is the same price that we paid it when we had Drew Dober, and I just know that this guy's gonna, stay safe on the feet, in my opinion, and he's gonna take the guy down. So, and I think he's got good cardio. So I feel pretty comfortable with it.
Yeah, I think he's good in this fight. I think the price is
23,
potentially
bro. He's
potentially generous, but I don't think he's any good, by the way. I
he's
don't think he's
23. He's 23, Martian.
yeah,
He's
but
your age.
his striking sucks and he's a lay and pray artist. So I mean his he's
He's
got a
got like
lot of work
seven
to do.
fights. He's got like 7 fights, dude. Give him some
Yeah,
time. This
but
this
I
guy's an
mean
animal, bro. This
like you were
guy
talking
is
about
an
with
animal.
but you mentioned it earlier, like with Armfield, like this lay and pray style that doesn't win fights anymore. So
He doesn't
um
need to lay and pray on what's his name on Alves after 4 minutes is he's not gonna be doing anything. It's different
yeah.
from Jose Johnson. Jose Johnson's gonna be throwing up triangles, starting to elbow him, get up. Like this guy's not
Yeah,
gonna try to
but
do
this
any of
guy
that.
actually doesn't. Oh, by the way, about this Aliev guy, he lost that Grebnev fight. He lost the last 2 rounds of that fight. So
And
oh,
Aliev's already been 5 rounds as well. So
he also got stuck in a triangle versus Krykov and was nearly submitted. So I don't know. This, I mean, like I said, I think he'll get past this fight, but this guy's no good. Next fight, 155, Joe Solecki, Carl Deaton. Deaton coming in on you short notice. Solecki -600, plus 425 on Deaton. I don't know if I can speak for both of us here, Ozzy, but I just think that Solecki should win. Obviously, you can't bet him at -600, but I don't see anything from Deaton that makes me think that he's going to win or even really compete that well here. What about you?
nah, man, I'm rolling with Joe Solecki. Guy's hungry. He's been training for this fight. Had to get it postponed a little bit. Obviously, Deaton's fought a few decent-ish guys. Um, but and this is the style of fight where would I be shocked at an upset? Like I'm honestly I wouldn't, because Joe, he has some holes that he's had to plug up. And I hope that he has, in his game. But Deaton obviously has plenty of experience. I would call him, I wouldn't say he's great at any, one facet, but I would call him well-rounded. Would you agree? Would you call him well-rounded, Martian?
Yeah, yeah.
He's well-rounded. He's not awful in any, form of the fight. He also, is more experienced, like I said, older guy. Has gone to decision, has a bunch of submission wins. So, I'm kind of maybe liking this fight, but he also has lost to some guys that suck. Like Jonas Flock. Like if he's losing to him and going to 3 rounds with Justin James last year, I think is probably pretty bad for him against Joe. But this is too big. Joe shouldn't be minus 500, 600. He should be. This should be a little bit closer. I would say.
Yeah. It's just, I think he will probably win a UFC fight or 2, but, what's bad for him in this fight is he's not a finisher. He typically wins fights via decision, so it's if he was the type of guy to, like, capitalize on a selecting mistake and finish him, then he might have a chance, but, I don't know. I don't think he will. Um,
I'm pretty sure Joe is looking to get the bonus though. So anybody, with interest.
his subline not no good in 120 plus 120.
I'm very sure that he will
Get a
uh
back take.
he's going for the finish. He's looking to get a bump in pay. So
Next fight is in the flyweight division. We got, our boy Charles Johnson taking on O'Day Osbourne. Charles Johnson -151, O'Day Osbourne +131. What are you thinking about this fight? Good fight here.
good fight. Interested in it for sure. I was telling you right before we got on that I was looking at the Zumagulov fight again, and obviously it was a robbery. But Zumagulov definitely had Charles a little bit, perplexed or not willing to commit too much with the speed early on. Right, he was countering, is really intent on doing that. And I could see the same similar thing happening here because O'Day does throw some shots from awkward angles. He does have some power, and he's got good speed as well. Um, but the line is coming in, a decent amount here. And I usually don't like backing guys like Charles when they're coming off a fight, like a dominant win, where the style one suit was well suited, and then the next fight is like completely different, right? Like he's fighting a guy who is big for 125, is more of a striker, has a longer reach than him as well. Is a southpaw, so it's just a bunch of different factors. When you kind of late got knocked out in his last fight, so people kind of probably a little low on him. So you kind of like mix all those things together. It makes me wary of backing Charles Johnson, and now we're getting big action on the O'Day side. So I'm kind of feeling like my intuitions are right about kind of like this matchup overall. Charles is only 4-3 in decisions. Obviously, he's got good cardio, but he kind of it takes him too long to get started sometimes. And there could even be a grappling path for O'Day here potentially. He has shown some takedowns and some submissions in the past. And he has a decent amount of UFC experience as well. So I mean, I would probably I say I would pick Charles here, and I wouldn't at the plus 130 number that is getting down to plus 140. Like, I think O'Day could be, like, small, a little segment of value just because of how I think these guys are going to be striking with each other. You can even see in the KO line, like, O'Day KO line is not that much. It's like 100 points difference. But O'Day by decisions is plus 500. I mean, know that he slowed down against CJ and that Charles gets stronger as the fight goes. But he could easily lose 2 rounds, and then you saw in that third round against Zumagulov, like he wasn't really pursuing the finish. So Charles, like I think I said on a few times, a guy who I kind of don't love betting. That kind of style. So I think I'm gonna probably pass on it overall. The over 1.5 got steamed. That's probably a good bet, but yeah. So what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with a good amount of that. I just think that Charles has a good equity here to take over the fight late. He's the one with more late fight experience, obviously been in 5 round fights, and O'Day does seem to slow down. I just think he kind of runs out of ideas as well. O'Day is like a good offensive striker, but I just don't think he's like that clever, and he works into fights very well. I don't think he'll have any success taking down Charles Johnson here. So it's going to be a striking fight. O'Day is the faster starter. Um, he might provide some problems for Johnson here with just that, that southpaw style, that in and out style. And O'Day's quick as well. So I think round one will probably be O'Day Osborne. And then I would be looking to live bet Charles Johnson after the first round, halfway through the fight, because O'Day, outstruck Vergara the first 2 rounds. And then round three, he was the one getting outstruck. And I think he might have even got taken down and stuck on bottom there too. So I just think that Johnson probably struggles early on here, but I just trust his ability to adapt mid fight a lot more, and I think he will run away with it late. Um, but yeah, that line you mentioned, what is it, plus 500 on O'Day decision?
Yeah,
That's nuts.
500.
Yeah, that's nuts. I really think that. I mean, I think it'll be competitive early, and I expect Johnson to take over late. But if it were competitive throughout, that wouldn't shock me at all. And O'Day is the one. O'Day is the one with the full fight camp here too. Charles Johnson's the one taking it on short notice, but I really don't think that really matters at all. Johnson just had a fight. Right after his fight, he went to Thailand and he's been training the entire time in Phuket. So I think he'll be good here. Won't be affected by that short notice at all. So I think Charles here is pretty safe. Um, Surprised by the line movement, though. I mean, people are liking O'Day. Next fight's a lightweight division. Jordan Levitt, Victor Martinez. Line for this one, Martinez, slight favorite. At -120, Levitt +100 here. I taped Martinez earlier today, and I like starting. What I typically do is I look for like the most relevant fight from maybe 4 or 5 fights ago, and then I like to watch, the fighters progress, and to me, I saw Martinez getting better as a defensive grappler. I mean, that seems to be his main problem as a fighter is getting taken down. He gives up his back all the time when he gets taken down, but if you watch his past several fights, I think you do see that he is getting a little better. I think he's getting a little more physical as well. Maybe he looked a little chubby at the weight class, a few fights ago, but he's starting to, come into his frame more. He's training at Kill Cliff with Safe Side Yude, screaming in his corner, which is always good. And Martinez's boxing, I think, is pretty solid. I think he's the much better striker than Levitt. I mean, Levitt doesn't know how to throw a punch. I stand by this opinion. He has no idea how to throw a punch. So if you're betting on a fighter to win a fight and he doesn't know how to punch, your margins are a little thin. And Levitt, his athleticism is shit. His wrestling isn't good. His top position isn't that good. I could see him getting a takedown or two here, but I think that he's gonna eventually lose it. And Martinez is just going to be doing so much more damage in this fight. So I just think Levin's margins are really thin, and Martinez has a lot more ways to win. And I'm going to be betting Martinez here. Hopefully, a little late action comes in on Levitt, and maybe we get a plus money on Martinez. But I don't know because I think the action is coming. Yeah, the action's coming in on Martinez throughout the week. So um, still, even at this price of -120, -115, I think that's good, man. I think Martinez should be closer to -150 here. So, what are you thinking about this one?
I also like Victor Martinez here in this fight. Now he's had a pretty significant layoff. Since the Contender Series fight that he won. And that was a great fight, I thought. For him, he got dropped there by some shots, but came back. Showed great cardio. Was sticking a lot of those punches. Shows his takedown defense in that fight. He's a black belt under Carlos Diego Ferreira, so a fellow UFC fighter, right? Fellow guy in his weight class. I don't know. I think he's still in that gym or in that area, in that Texas area. Um, but overall, my issue more is with Levitt. Now, like, I feel that Martinez is a solid UFC level fighter. Like, I think he's not a top level guy for sure, but he's a scrappy guy that'll, I think it's just solid everywhere. This for me is more of a fade on Jordan Levitt. Now you see in the fight against Patty, he's tired after like 2 or 3 minutes. I think there's like a nut I don't know. He's definitely breathing hard as he's like working implementing the wrestling. But his issue is if you're not, okay with him just laying on top of you and are actively looking to get up or even in the wrestling scrambles, he's not that sticky to you overall from what I've seen with adequate grapplers, right? Like, UFC level grapplers. And then if you counter grapple him, right? We saw it in the Paddy Pimblett fight, we saw it in the Claudio Puelles fight. If you counter grapple him, typically you have success because he either is not maybe strong enough to keep his positions, or he's more he's like allowing you to do that so he could hopefully counter your counter. But whatever it is, the guy, I think is not as dominant of a grappler as either he thinks he is or as he needs to be with what his attributes are. And on the feet is gonna be a blowout. Like, I think, Victor is not gonna be looking to grapple and do, be like Trey Ogden, like just letting this guy leg kick him for free and all these kinds of things. So I think that he's going to look good in this fight. I think he's got way better conditioning and cardio than any of these guys really that Jordan Levitt has fought or Jordan Levitt himself. So I think he's gonna put some damage on Jordan. I think obviously he could get a takedown, and you end up in the body triangle, and you're like, it's bad news. It's not good, right? The round could slip by very very quickly there. But being said, that I said that he's a jiu-jitsu black belt. I mean, Martinez submission at 20 to 1, pretty big odds, I would say, especially when the
Yeah,
inside
that's good.
inside the distance is even on both sides of these guys.
And he just got submitted.
Yeah, Jordan exactly. Jordan Levitt just got submitted by Rear Naked Choke.
And Trey Ogden had him in a deep guillotine.
Absolutely, that's what I'm saying. Like the guy, if he's tired, what is gonna happen? He's gonna go to his preferred area, right, which is the ground, right? And this guy's a black belt, has good cardio, and what does he have submissions on his record? His grappling is fine. He could definitely submit Jordan Levitt if he's tired. So I'm gonna try and get a stab on that on some of the onshore books. Hopefully when it opens up. But yeah, I also have a little piece of Victor Martinez at the -105 number. I think it's solid. He doesn't have any submission wins, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
I still think 20-1 is good.
That's
Um,
just a computer generated line. They go,
that is
"Oh,
true.
Levitt has 6 sub wins and, Martinez lost sub twice. Oh, plus 2,000."
Yeah, 20
You know, it's
20 is a number that is put out there often. Like I remember when I played Sanhagen over Dillashaw submission, our boy Pepe hit Yair 20-1 or maybe a little less, 18-1 maybe on Yair last week. So yeah, that is a common number.
Brunson sub over Till, I think, was 20 to 1.
It was no, that one was like 29-1.
Tw Yeah.
But yeah, I like Victor here.
Martinez long layoff. I hadn't realized that Contender Series was last season, not this most recent season.
Yeah, super long
But,
time
that
ago.
that fight was good. I mean, he got dropped in round 1 and then came back and then put it on Rosales in rounds 2 and 3 there, so that was a good
I mean, he's
performance.
fought some decent guys as well. Like he hasn't fought like even in his regionals, like he didn't fight. He fought a few
Yeah.
bums, but not that many.
Somebody we'll be talking about a little bit coming up, Gonzalez. But, next fight, women's flyweight division, Gabriela Fernandez taking on Jasudavicius. Some interesting names here. Fernandez -130, Jasudavicius, +110. Your turn to start this one off. Banger of a fight in the women's flyweight division. What are we thinking here?
Unfortunately for you and everybody else, I don't really have too many thoughts on this fight. I try to look at into Gabby a little bit, but then the odds started moving, and then I was like, man, like I got too much stuff that I'm doing this week. Like I can't be worried about this too much. But she came up through the LFA, which I've said multiple times. I like what they're doing, in the LFA and kind of building up these Brazilian prospects of theirs. So they shepherded her along pretty well. She was a big favorite in all those fights, but is what it is. So she looks like she's got some good skills to her. I'm not that familiar with the team and kind of like her overall background, but I know that she's a 93 kid. And I know that Jasmine got killed by a Brazilian in her last fight. So I mean, I'm just gonna pass in the fight, just to enjoy it. I do think that Jasmine has some unique abilities to the 125 division, but in that last fight, she couldn't get anything going. It's pretty embarrassing from her. But she is fighting a girl here who is a bit less experienced than Natalia Silva was, but looks to be in the same kind of mold a bit. So might be a tough fight for Jasmine. I'm hoping for just a really good, solid scrap, and probably hoping for the 93 kid to reign supreme. But tell the people. I know you've got a lot of thoughts on this fight, so let us know. What's
Well,
the bet?
first off, I have to maybe take some blame for convincing Ozzy to lay -200 on Jasudavicius in the last fight. That was probably not one of our better bets. But Yeah, I mean, Fernandez, she looks like a bad grappler. I mean, there's not a plethora of footage of her out there, but we have seen her taken down, and when she gets taken down, she lays flat on her back. She goes full guard. One time, a referee had to stand them up because her opponent was kind of just laying on top. But she looked to me to have no way to get off of her back. So that's obviously a huge concern against Jasudavicius, who is, a decent women's wrestler. I mean, she's big and physical for the weight class, and I think she definitely is going to be coming in here looking to wrestle. I think that's a pretty clear game plan of JJ's at this point is her offensive wrestling. So I think a plus money for a woman who is likely the better grappler, that's generally a good formula to women's MMA. I will say though, Fernandez is a southpaw, and I think she does have some decent offensive striking technique. A lot of her opponents though are complete bums. So you got to take that with a grain of salt. But if it stays standing, Jasmine might be in a little bit of trouble. But man, we're talking about a woman who has never really stuffed takedowns, who has looked bad on bottom, and is a favorite in her first UFC fight against a woman with UFC wins. So I just think that that's a bad recipe. And every now and then we see these women get way better off of a long layoff or coming out of the regionals. That's possible here. It happened in Jasudavicius' last fight, but I mean, if I hadn't lost on JJ's last fight, I think I would be definitely betting her here. But I'm very hesitant because we did in fact lose in pathetic, embarrassing fashion in that last fight too. So JJ is a side at plus money. We got a 6 fight main card coming up here. So first fight is in the lightweight division. Eric Gonzalez, Trevor Peek. Trevor Peek is the favorite, minus 180. Eric Gonzalez plus 155. Holy shit, man! What a fight we got booked here. I mean, someone is getting finished in this fight. This line to end ITD is minus 400, guys. It's value. It's value. I really believe this fight ends by finish, probably closer to like 90% instead of 80%. Um, I mean, Peak he has no skill. He has no MMA skill whatsoever. He goes in there and just brawls and fights, and I think he's probably the closest thing we've ever seen to just like a street fighter make it this far in MMA. It's incredible to witness. The
Say
guy
it again.
has
Say it again. What was that? Sorry.
so like he has gotten far. He's made it to the UFC while essentially just going in there and brawling every
Oh,
fight.
Peak,
He
Peak.
yeah.
Is Peak the guy who's like raped some chick or whatever that Cody Safdie was trying to get him like get his parole like lifted or some shit? Is that him?
I do not. I don't know. We're gonna have to look into that one a
I
little bit
think that's
more.
him.
He
I
has
think
that look in his eye. He has that look in his eye, I will say. Um, but,
you see it every morning, right? That look
no. I've seen it though in this guy, like Abdul Razak Al Hassan has that look in his eye. Um,
allegedly.
he was actually cleared on all charges, so for what it's worth. Anyway, getting back on track here. Gonzalez though, I mean, I give him a lot of advantages in this fight, Gonzalez. I really think he is the better skilled fighter in striking and grappling. He has more skill or more experience. He's fought later in fights more often than Peak has. And I think he's, the better grappler. I mean, Peak, he's been taken down. He lays on his back. To me, he looks like maybe worse than a blue belt on the ground. I truly think he has almost no idea what he's doing. He ends up on top of Common Worthy a few times in that fight, but anytime Kama tries to stand up, he does because Peak doesn't know how to keep opponents down. He might know how to get on top of a guy every now and then, but he doesn't know how to keep them down. So I think Gonzalez has a path on the floor via takedowns and on the feet by just, rocking Peak because Peak has no defense and just brawls in every single fight. The only advantage I give to Peak in this fight, well, there's two, is probably cardio and durability. And he can definitely win the fight off of just taking a beating and coming back and dishing it out later like he just did on the Contender Series. But is he really a 65% favorite to do that here? I mean, he was the underdog in his last fight, right? Malik Lewis was the one who was minus 190. And truthfully, that pricing looked completely accurate. I mean, Peak got, essentially knocked out in the first round but somehow survived. And then Peak just took advantage of a gassed out Lewis in the second round. Can that formula continue to work? It could. It could definitely get past Gonzalez, but that's going to run into a huge wall here at some point. So if you're really wanting to put your money on like a safe fighter, maybe wait a little bit longer to fade Peak. But I think Gonzalez is worth a small bet. I mean, I see him as the better fighter. I think he's got better skill, better experience, and that at less than 40%, I think is wrong. So I'll take Gonzalez here for a small bet.
My friend, you started it off very well with saying, "Hey, this fight is not." What do you say? Either under and not going the distance. Which one were you saying?
Not going the distance, minus 400. I endorse it. Yeah.
Guys, there is no reason for this fight to be on the motherfucking main card. And the only reason it is because Dana, Sean, whoever, Mick, I don't keep track of who's in the 155 matchmaker, but he's like he's putting his balls on the table. He's like, this fight is gonna start off the card as a banger. Away.
It will.
Okay. And like you were saying, Gonzalez, man, he's 14-7. So he literally loses a third of his fights. But it's easy to hit the guy, right? But he's only been knocked out, one time. So the guy's pretty tough overall. It was against Miller when they were just exchanging shots. Also has some power in his hands as well. So what I feel is a outcome that definitely can happen is these guys are just throwing leather in there, and Peak eats a huge shot and he goes down because he hasn't really been. I mean, Malik, the only fight that he has fought adversity, in my opinion, was that Malik fight. And I don't even know what happened there. Like, I thought Malik was gonna kill him, and I thought he was on his way to finishing him, and then he just got tired and whatever. So I kind of think Peak eventually, like maybe he's just gonna be able to goad um Eric into just kind of overcommitting to some stuff, and then maybe clobbers him with a few shots, and maybe gets the second knockout of his career. Um, but I don't know. Like I actually think when you're saying doesn't go the distance, I agree with you. Minus 400, but the under 2.5, 1.5. I don't know if this fight's gonna finish in the first round, but if it does, I don't really care that much either. So
I have a theory is that this is either gonna end in the first round or whoever wins the first round will lose in the second round. So, if any guy is, like, starting strong here, they're probably not gonna sustain it, and they're probably gonna get finished in the next round.
seems legit. I mean, they're gonna probably go ape shit crazy in the first round. So don't. I'm
I
not.
got
I'm
a
not laying
I
one
have
cent
a
on this fight.
prop.
0 cents.
I have a prop.
Oh please.
Gonzalez KO1 plus 800. I mean, Peak was basically knocked out in round 1 in his last fight. And now they're saying that, Gonzalez only has an 11% chance to replicate that. I mean, I just think that Gonzalez is being a southpaw, he's kind of big and long. I think that Peak might have never seen a southpaw in his life before.
Not in
So
Alabama. They don't. They don't let you write with your left hand in Alabama.
yeah. Actually, Malik Lewis might be a southpaw, honestly, but
I think it was a
besides that, but
whatever.
he definitely got clipped with like a left hook, the one that punched that rocked him. But yeah, next fight, welterweight division, Mike Malott, Johan Lainesse. The odds for this one, Malott minus 210, Lainesse plus 180. I have a feeling you're not going to have much conviction here, but any thoughts?
Shots fired. Yeah, I mean, all Canadian affair we got going on here. And it's one between two guys like Malott. You know, been hard to figure this guy out overall for me in his UFC career and even before. I think I bet that the Israeli guy against him and he got guillotined like 20 seconds. But Malott, I mean he's big, he's really pale, but he's big, long, pretty strong I think at the 170 weight class. Mixes up some of the strikes pretty well. And the wrestling, I mean, he is what I would call a submission grappler. Like literally, when I say that, people are like, oh, obviously. But what I'm saying is, once he gets his hands on you and you guys are in the grappling realm, he is looking for the submission at all times. And I've noticed this as a person myself who trained from a young age of grappling, is that it's tough. Like you kind of get like segmented off, early in your how you're learning jujitsu. So there's some guys that their brain just doesn't work well for looking for finishes in terms of their grappling because they kind of just think it's too much of control. Whereas people that are more seasoned on the ground and naturals, they're kind of thinking they're like every position is a potential submission. And I feel Johan, his grappling is he's like a lunk. Like he just doesn't link things together in the grappling, and his grappling pace is really really low. So that's why even though Malott might struggle at some points, I think if he ever does get this grappling, is going to be quick to dominant or very dangerous positions on Johan. Because Johan, the speed on the ground for him, it's like, you ever seen Dance Dance Revolution, Martian? It's just, you ever went against like an Asian guy, you just can't keep up with him. It's just impossible. And that's
Mm.
what's gonna happen here. Mike Malott is the Asian in Dance Dance Revolution, and Johan Lainesse is the fat, out of shape, guy who maybe danced a little bit, maybe like 5, 6 years ago. But once they do get on that, you lock in on the game, you end up submitting. So I think that's what's gonna happen. I like late Malott by submission specifically. Not great price. Oh, actually, 11-1 second round submission and 14-1 third round submission. So that's pretty good. So I think one of those two is what I would prefer here. I just think that Malott, I know you're gonna knock him on his cardio just because it's unproven, but Johan does not bring out a lot of cardio out of guys. So I think Malott should be good here to win. submission.
Yeah, I mean, this fight has a lot of uncertainty to it. Lainesse, let's start with him. He's a striker who gasses out, right? I mean, his last fight against Weeks, you clearly saw that he was trying to stick and move and retreat because he gassed out really badly in his last fight against Gate Green and got knocked out. And he definitely looked like he was trying to adapt his fight style. And credit to him, it worked. He etched out a split decision there,
That
and I
fight
definitely
was
think he
terrible. That fight was terrible.
awful. I
And
think
Weeks
he
has an argument for winning that fight.
For sure, yeah. The second, I mean, third round was a toss up. Not much happened, but I mean, still for Lioness, like that was a success for him. I mean, he managed his cardio better. He got his first decision win. I think no, not his first. He's actually 3-0 in decisions. So this guy, he is a gasser. He does slow down, but like he's 3-0 in decisions. And if you're talking about if you were betting against Lioness, you would want a guy who's proven to come on late in rounds 2 and 3. Mike Malott hasn't been in a round 2 in MMA since 2015. I know he hasn't had a lot of experience. He's only had, I think, 3 or 4 fights, but they're all really quick fights without a whole lot of adversity. And just watching him strike versus Mickey Gall, man, I thought it was ugly. I thought that whenever Mickey Gall came forward and unleashed a combination of punches, they would land and almost look to hurt Malott. I think Mallett's defense is bad, and I think his durability is bad as well. You saw, Gall put him in a little bit of a problem, and Solomon Renfro also dropped him early on
His
there.
power looked
Uh,
good in that fight against
it
Mickey
did.
Gall.
Yeah, that's that.
I didn't think he hit that hard.
Yeah, I will.
I know Mickey Gall's got a hard ass head.
Yeah, I mean, that is one thing. He did have some good snap to his punches, but I just don't think he has a whole lot of striking process. Honestly, I think he got kind of fortunate that Gall was rushing into the pocket recklessly, and he was able to counter that. But I kind of think the striking is going to be a very like low volume. Tepid striking. Maybe one guy will land a big shot and rock each other, and finish the fight out of nowhere. But I think there's going to be a lot of wasted time and movement in this fight where they're both kind of just feeling each other out. So I think the over 1.5 is good here. Um, I just think that Mallet probably will take over. I mean, he is young. He does look like a pretty good athlete. But how is he? Maybe like 32 or something. I mean,
31.
31. Yeah, yeah. But I mean, it's minus 210 for a guy who hasn't been out of round one in 7 years. So I just don't know how anybody is comfortable laying 67% or more when we have no fucking clue what this guy is going to look like in
Yeah,
the second round.
Johan also usually comes out, he comes out even in the CFFC fights that I saw of his. He usually has a good first round. Obviously, against in his contender
Yeah.
fight, right? He won by first round knock. He's got a few first round knockouts. So I mean, like I said, I like them a lot late props, and then potentially getting in on him live, depending on how that first round goes.
Yeah, but I guess but the point I did mention earlier is I think we saw a big change in Lionesse's fighting style after gassing out and getting knocked out versus Green. I think he's now trying to be like a 15-minute striking decision type of fighter. So, um,
You got
who knows here?
Johan. You're betting Johan.
I think he's the side for sure. I mean, I think I'm maybe a small bet because, like you said, I think you can trade out from a lot live. Those late sub props aren't bad from a lot. But man, why are they making the Canadians fight each other here? I mean, there's like
So we
fucking
need to do,
15.
bro. We don't need any of those guys in the UFC.
Yeah, that's true. They all are pretty bad, honestly. So, um, main
They
next fight.
yo, do you remember when they were talking about like Charles Jourdain? They were like, "Man, Jourdain, he's gonna be, he gonna be top 10." It's like, bro, are you guys
Even Dawadu
dude?
didn't Dawadu wasn't even
Canadian
big.
fans are the most delusional, dude. They're like they literally actually think like these guys.
They've had two good fighters, George St. Pierre and Elias Theodoro.
That's it.
None's
The
actually
late
Random
great
Marcos.
R.I.P.
Random Marcos is dope.
Oh
I
no,
fuck with her.
shut up,
Um,
Brandon
speaking
Marcos.
of women, speaking of women, um, yeah, I'm pretty sure Random Marcos won her last fight as an underdog. So put some respect on her name. Um, Women's flyweight division, Tatiana Suarez, long layoff, moving up in weight here. Montana De La Rosa. Suarez, huge favorite, minus 800. De La Rosa, plus 550. Um, so just based on the fact that Suarez is coming off of a 3-year layoff, she's moving up in weight. Um, you can't be even considering even parlaying her in this spot. I mean, it's It's too uncertain. Also, I mean, neck injury, long layoff, moving up in weight class. That's three intangible factors that kind of put some pause in trusting Suarez here. Um, I mean, she's a chain wrestler though. I mean, women cannot defend chain takedown attempts. I mean, there are very few women who can defend takedown attempts at all, and there are none that can defend chain takedown attempts. So and also, no women are capable of learning footwork and being able to circle off the cage. So, Suarez will probably, if she's still in her form, pre-injury, she'll probably, make a really solid run here at 125. Um, I mean, De La Rosa is fine everywhere, but what's she gonna do here? What is De La Rosa gonna do besides survive? I don't think that she's gonna have any opportunities to actually take over and start winning the fight. The only bet I think that you could possibly fathom here is over or under 2.5 rounds, or GTD or ITD. And for De La Rosa, or I mean for Suarez, I think the GTD is the side here. I mean, she's coming off the layoff. She might be a little uncertain of her gas tank here at this new weight class. And there were times Nina Ansaroff survived her. Nina Ansaroff got back up to her feet, and she put Alexa Grasso and Esparza in really bad spots like mount and back take, but she actually didn't get many dominant positions at all on Nina Ansaroff. So I think De La Rosa, excuse me, Suarez decision maybe, or just over 2.5 is the only bet I could see here. But man, I don't know. I can't even bet on this fight or get excited for it in any fashion. How about you?
Yeah, I don't have too many thoughts on the fight overall. I'm glad to see Tatiana back. Like you said, she has some skills that are very unique for the women's division. She also trains with Northeast, the best grappler, one of the best grapplers in MMA, and it's her boyfriend and Patchy Mix. So I think she's been refining her game. I actually think the weight class move up for her is good because, I mean, she's a long girl. She's obviously very strong. She's obviously cut a lot of weight over the course of her career, and just moving up to the 125 weight class, I think is fine. I don't think she's gonna have too much issues, especially with a girl like Montana De La Rosa. Like, Montana's not very strong. She's a grappler herself. But like you said, I mean, depending on how Tatiana fights, like, could the fight become like a little bit closer? Like, I don't think so, just because she usually just wrestles like really, really intent, like with a lot of intent. But I don't like the GTD. Like, I don't want to rely on Montana, kind of look like Montana's getting cut after she loses this fight. And that's the only reason I think they made it as well, to give Tatiana a good easy welcome, quote unquote easy welcome into the weight class. Um so I kind of like Tatiana by submission here, but I don't think I'm gonna bet it.
Well, at what odds? The odds are like shitty, aren't
Yeah, I
they?
know. I know. I'm just saying.
What are they?
275.
That's actually not as bad as I would have expected.
Just, I know when people say the physicality stuff, but I think what is more of a factor, and we've seen it in the men's divisions as well, and we haven't seen as many women, fluctuating in the weight classes, is like the speed of which Tatiana, I think, is going to be moving around Montana and looking to chain these takedowns is just going to be something that Montana's never felt before, literally. So I'm hoping Tatiana could get a finish here. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, that would make it interesting, and I think that, sub is definitely better than KO at this price. De La Rosa's a tough woman. I mean, Araujo and Lee beat her up pretty badly, and, she didn't quit. Mario Bueno Silva teed off on her late, and she stayed in there. So I think if she's losing dominantly, it's not gonna be a TKO. She'll give out the neck or something. So that's not bad. Maybe sub 2-3 for Suarez if they have that combo prop on FanDuel. Next fight, heavyweight division, Augusto Sakai, Mayes. Um, Sakai minus 135, Mayes plus 115. Some goofy line movement going on here. Not sure what's really happening, but let me hear your
A
thoughts.
lot of, one sec. Yeah, a lot of action coming in on Sakai, and I really don't know, like, what would cause someone with conviction to go on Sakai. And what I think is the main factor is like that memory that Dontel Mays left in all of us. And for me, let me tell you, Martian, that was a memorable night for me. And still, the fact that Dontel Mays did what he did is like probably the standout from that night. because who the hell goes for that takedown? That like, step in, like kind of like trip him behind, like with your hip thing that he did against a 260-pound Olympic wrestler. Who would do that? Only Dontel Mays would do that. And this is a fascinating fight because Sakai, he's only been getting finished, right? But he's been getting finished obviously with the top end of the division. But now he fights a guy who's really athletic, kind of well rounded, trains at a gym that actually has heavyweights, including the guy who's moving up to heavyweight, John Jones. So I would assume that fucking Dante Mays is allowed to train with John Jones and Walt Harris and all these guys. He's got to be in that camp, right? I would think. Um,
Yeah, I've seen pictures.
yeah, okay. So, and Downtown Maze, like, we all thought Downtown Maze would beat Hamdy because we're like, all right, he's got like the long striking game. He should be able to go 3 rounds. So, I mean, just overall, I like Dontel in this fight at the plus money because he's got the reach, he's long, his wrestling and grappling obviously look better, right? These are all things that we said going into the Hamdy fight, mind you. But this is a completely different fight. So that's why I'm kind of not as like, oh, like, I can't do it and stuff like that just because he burned me last time. Because Sakai, like, I feel like his hands aren't as accurate as they used to be. Like he's a little bit more trigger shy. He doesn't throw as many kicks. And Dontel, has that reach advantage on him as well. And then if they start grappling, I feel that Sakai, like, although he has jujitsu, like his motor is horrible. Like this guy just fat, slow. He's like a panda in there. He's fat, slow, and I don't know. I don't like Sakai, dude. I've been betting against Sakai for forever. Even when he burned me, like I had him. I think I faded Sakai. Oh yeah, I'm looking at this now. I faded Sakai in every fight, unfortunately, except for the Rosenstrike fight. Literally every other fight, including back when you go to back to Andre Arlovsky. I've been against him in every fight, and I'm not changing that right now. So plus 130 now on Mies. I also like the over a little bit, just because I think that Sakai is not going to finish Dante Mies. Dante Mies is pretty hard to get out of there. I feel, and the only time he's really finished someone early is Tybora. He just caught him kind of cold. So I like Dantel. I like the over as well. So I also probably like Dantel by decision here as well. So let's go Dantel. Get back on the winning side, brother.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much all that, except I'm not going to be taking the over here. I do think that it'll probably go over, but I also think that if Sakai is winning the fight at all, it will be catching Mays and knocking him out
Yeah,
in
but
the first
Maze
round.
is like he'll like start ducking away and running away. Like Maze is not going. He's not go out on my shield kind of guy. So I will say that about him. He's not gonna like
Yeah,
if he's losing, he's not gonna be like, all right, I'm gonna bite the mouthpiece. Like he's if Sakai is swarming him, he's running away.
yeah, I know what you mean.
Dantel's a
Yeah, that's
runaway
true.
dude. Just like
But I
Hamdi,
mean,
he ran away from
yeah,
Hamdi a few times.
he did. But it was, yeah, that was still ugly. I mean, the fact that he even got rocked there was. I mean, I don't even know what the hell happened. That was kind of like a slip, and Hamdi capitalized on it. But I mean, so I just don't want to. I don't want to double up on Mays and the over, and then if Sakai hits his win condition, which is to
That's
me an
fair.
early KO, I don't want to take a double loss. Because I mean, if this goes over 1.5, man, I really think it should be Mays. I mean, yeah, I mean, like you were talking about fading Sakai. If we look at Sakai's like run that he's on, so he's been knocked out 4 fights in a row. Let's get that through everyone's mind, right? 4 knockouts in a row. Before that, Ivanov split decision. He grabbed the fence at a key time in the fight and won the fight off of that fence grab. Tabura KO, 60 seconds, Arlovsky split decision, Chase Sherman knockout. So, I mean, dude, his whole UFC run is very fortunate. If that Arlovsky split doesn't go his way and that Ivanov split doesn't go his way, he might have been out of the UFC a long time ago. But I will say though, he is only 31 somehow. You think this guy's a lot older, so maybe we're writing him off too early. But to me, any guy that I think it will attempt takedowns against Sakai, I think should be the favorite because Sakai's defensive wrestling sucks, and he can't separate distance. He might be able to stand back up from a takedown or two, but he can't break the guy's grip. So I think Mays should be able to take him down and keep dragging him back down, just like Spivak was able to do. And even on the feet, man, if these guys stay and kickbox with each other for 15 minutes, I think it could go either way. I'm not even sure Sakai is the favorite if it stays striking. I think, Maze's in and out style, a lot of that long, Jackson Wink type of striking, might just, kind of frustrate Sakai and win the minutes here on the feet. So I think Sakai has potential to maybe win the striking, and then has massive potential to win the grappling. So let's just hope Mayes is intelligent enough to actually wrestle in this fight. And I mean, he
Please,
wrestled.
Dontel. Please,
Yeah,
Dontel.
we
Please.
need to. I might have to message him with the
None of
game
those
plan
stupid
because
ass fucking trips either, bro. Double legs and single legs. Let's do
yeah,
those.
he better have learned his lesson. I bro, but good point about John Jones. He's definitely got like some good aura in the air right now at Jackson Wink. Um, And that's going to take us to the co-main event, middleweight division. Andre Muniz, Brendan Allen, probably the best fight on the card. This is actually a sick matchup in the middleweight division. And the odds for this one have Muniz minus 228, Brendan Allen plus 193. Action steadily coming in on Andre Muniz these past few weeks. And I understand why. I actually think the pre-fight line is right, because to me, I think the fight comes down to Brendan Allen sucks at defending single legs, and Andre Muniz is pretty good at hitting single legs. I mean, Jacob Malkoun destroyed Brendan Allen with just a single leg takedown. That's all he needed, and Malkoun's top game isn't that good. So when you add the fact that Muniz has that good single leg as well, and then just has incredible jujitsu to go along with it, I think he's getting Brendan down here. I think he will control him the first half of the fight. It then becomes a matter of can Allen, turn the tide and maybe get a key reversal at a time in the fight and take over. Because I think Muniz's cardio is a little concerning. It's not like he's blowing people out of the water in round three. The Arroyo fight was a little suspect. The Hall fight, I think his cardio was fine in that fight, but um, I just think that, Allen, he's very comfortable being taken down and in grappling fights. We've seen him go back and forth with guys like Dawkins, Anthony Hernandez in LFA, and even Kevin Holland on the mat. Jocko, he went back and forth on the mat. So Malkoun, he is always going back and forth. So if Brendan Allen gets taken down and put in a bad position, that's not going to deter him at all. He actually has a pretty good, will in there, and he doesn't break as the fight goes on. So I think I think this fight is probably going to go the full 15 minutes, and I think we're going to see a decision for one guy here, probably a Muniz. I'll pick Muniz to win the first two rounds. Brendan Allen will have a little bit of a comeback at round three, but it won't be quite enough to win the fight. And I like the over here. I think the over 1.5. It's out there on some books. I think that's good. 2.5. I don't know, but I just think that I mean, if this fight goes under 1.5, I think it's a Muniz sub, obviously. But as I was just mentioning about Allen, I mean, he's no fish out of water when it comes to being taken down and grappled. I think he's gonna stay safe. He's gonna defend, and I think he will make it over 1.5 rounds. Probably losing a decision here, but yeah, really fun fight. I hope it goes differently than I expect because I would be excited to see Allen pull this one off.
Great fight. Love it. Been thinking about it a bit, and I've kind of like leaned towards like I want to play Allen and I want to play the over. Because uh Allen, when you look at him, like the Malkoun fight is actually like a super good analog for this fight because, like, the way you said it, like the way like he wins this fight is, I do think he's gonna get taken down at some point. Like Muniz, he's just too strong and he has pretty good timing, on the takedowns, and he's big. We're talking about his cardio. The guy cuts a lot of weight because when he used to compete at jiu-jitsu, he used to compete well over 200 pounds. I think he used to be in the the 220 weight class and something like that. So I could definitely see stuff like the Malkoun fight where Allen reverses him to top and then is actually lands more dangerous strikes there. If because Andre is maybe a little bit fatigued or is looking for submissions, and that gives Allen the opportunity to land harder strikes and all that. On the feet, I feel that Allen, the thing is he's not going to be able to launch that body kick as often as he wants because the takedown threat is there. But with the hands, I do think that Allen's been improving. I like some of the strike selection, a little bit, but it is going to be a fight where I think it's probably better to wait a little bit, see what's going on, see the tempo that the fight is at, because if Allen is to win. I do think this fight needs to be a high tempo, no matter where, whether it be a clinch or on the ground. I think you want to have a high tempo and against Andre Muniz, and I think you want to introduce variance into it. Andre wants to put you in the positions where it's low variance, where he has a lot of experience, right? The back mount, the mount, even his guard, stuff like that. So you want to be consistently transitioning with him, even if you might have to fight off a submission attempt or two. So I'm really interested in seeing the fight take place. I think Allen potentially could look, good value here, but I do prefer to just ride it out, wait for a little bit, see how the fight's playing out, see how frantic Muniz comes out, and I think that fights like this, someone like me, like I feel like there's definitely some advantages on the live market to be had. So just be a little patient here, waiting is going to be my but I might, if it goes back over 200, I think I might play Allen before. So
I don't know. I think you should wait for live. I think
probably
he's
will.
definitely going to be a better price
But the
live than he
over, the
will.
over is that over is pretty solid because Allen, he, I think he knows like his fight IQ is pretty good, and I think he knows even if he gets taken down early, let's say that like okay, let's see what this guy's got. Let me feel him out a little bit, and not. It's like in jiu-jitsu when the guys get their guard pass and you tell them don't give up their back and just let the guy score the points and they give up their back and they get choked. And you're like, why do you do that? It was like the beginning of the round or the beginning of the
Yeah,
match.
it's just a matter of will he get too reckless trying to escape and get subbed, or will he stay safe and like Uriah Hall, bro. Like Uriah Hall is good at like minimizing any risk. He got his back taken, but all he did was focus on defending. He wasn't too worried about you know, uh actually
Taping.
escaping. Yeah, but I mean, there was times there where I think Hall escaped. He escaped side control once. I think he might have escaped the back taker too. So I mean, really, if Uriah Hall is surviving, Brendan Allen should as well.
He's a beast,
So
though. I love seeing jiu-jitsu guys like Andre Muniz. Really,
Muniz's torso is like the craziest torso in the UFC. This guy's shoulders are like muscular and broad and wide, and then his torso just like slenders down, and he's got like a really small waist. He's a kind of a freak athlete.
for sure.
Um,
Would for sure, right?
Yeah, he's got a hog on him. Anyway, main event time. The Ukrainian Nikita Krylov taking on the American Superman Spann. Krylov is the favorite, minus 162. Spann plus 142. Your turn to start this one off. Give us your thoughts on Nikita Krylov's first UFC
Man,
main event. Long time coming.
amazing, right? People used to rag on this guy, like make fun of his like picture and his nickname and all these kinds of things. And then he left the UFC a little bit for a little while to get some Russian money and shit like that. It was pretty fascinating career Nikita Krylov has lived, and he's come back. And it's kind of crazy when you see like early on, like he used to get submitted or like he got yeah,
Soa
so
Paleli knocked him out like
yeah,
10
he got
years
knocked
ago.
out by him. He got Von Prue choked. But now his grappling, I love watching Nikita Krylov grapple because he kind of does all the instinctual things that are of like a lifelong grappler. But then he also has a little bit of a mean streak, or like his motor is like really really good. Which I think will bode well here against Ryan Spann. Ryan Spann, huge guy, crazy long reach, big time power, has a little bit of a submission game as well, has looked incredibly dangerous. But I like Nikita Krylov in this fight overall. Guys like Ryan Spann, I feel have like bursts like this in their careers. But a lot of times, it kind of fizzles out right as they're kind of like reaching, trying to string together like multiple fights in a row. And I think the fight that Nikita could like see very easily is that the Anthony Smith fight, where Anthony Smith, he was exchanging with Ryan Spann, but what he was really, really diligent at is not letting Ryan Spann go first too often and kind of just being relentless and just keeping control of the fight, throwing out the more dangerous strikes as opposed to a guy like Dominic Reyes, who is much more timid. He was not throwing first as often. He was looking to kind of see what Ryan Spann was doing and then looking to kind of work off that. I think Nikita Krylov is his nature and his tendency to just be all gas, no brakes. But like I said, his cardio is actually pretty good, and his timing is actually pretty good as well. And then he also offers the danger of kicks as well. So I like him here in this fight. I think he should be able to stay safe away from the big strikes that Ryan Spann throws out there. Although Ryan Spann does throw them out pretty quickly overall, I just think the fight escapes, even the first like 3 or 4 minutes, I feel like the long range weapons of Nikita are gonna sail him over to a victory and a finish at some point. Just because Ryan Spann, he's kind of like mentally, mentally in his head. I feel when the fights are going away from him, he kind of doesn't stay in there, as much and kind of with it as much to finish guys at the level of Nikita Krylov. So yeah, so I think he's gonna win this fight. Ryan Spann also, he hasn't made. I think he missed weight his last 2 fights, right? I don't even think it was only the. Did he make against Kudalaba? Yeah, he made against Kudalaba. But I think against Smith, no, he made against Smith. Well, whatever. He definitely has a hard time making a 205 number. Okay. So yeah, we'll see about this main event how he does in this one. But I do feel if the fight escapes the first round, Nikita Krylov for sure takes it without too much of a problem.
I completely agree. I really think that Krylov will run away with it outside of the first round. I mean, I would be massively, massively shocked to see Span win this fight past the 7.5 minute mark, over 1.5 rounds. Because I mean his cardio just doesn't hold up. He can be taken down. He can look a little bad on bottom. The dude is not durable at all, man. Span is fragile. Anthony Smith was putting this guy on Queer Street with every punch he landed. Every
I
punch
don't I
Anthony
don't think
Smith
queer
landed.
street is a appropriate term to use anymore.
Bro, we're not following those rules on the Martian and Ozzy podcast, bro. We should know this by now.
Okay. Sorry.
Um, yeah, we're not letting the wokeness get to us, as some people will say. Anyway, um, Krylov, man, I mean, minus 162, I think is good. I struggle to give Span more than 30% here. I mean, Span might be able to high roll his way to a finish here, hurting Krylov early. But I mean, how is he gonna win this fight outside of 1 round? The guy's
He's really
cardio
not, dude.
sucks.
He's not
Yeah,
winning this fight after the first round.
no,
It's not happening.
I really would be shocked, really, really shocked to see Span
And
win.
look, you
Uh,
brought up the that's the only time that
he's been
he's been
knocked out.
knocked out. Literally the only
Yeah,
time, man. Nikita Krylov is pretty good. Like he's not a bad fighter. Like I was big on him against Volkan in his last fight, but I'm telling you, this guy is really solid. Like in all
yeah.
facets.
Like he got a little hurt versus Volkan early, and then he hurt Volkan that same round, and he ended the round on bottom and lost the round. But then rounds 2 and 3, he trucked Ozdemir, and I mean Krylov's cardio. I mean this dude is definitely on EPO or something because like his cardio for a big guy is really really good. Um, just look at the way they fought Johnny Walker. Span fought him like a fucking idiot, swinging and flailing all over the place, gets knocked out. Krylov takes the smart, efficient approach, takes him down, drags him down over 15 minutes, and wins an easy decision there. So, I mean, I think that Krylov's going to need to find a lucky punch in round one here, or
Span,
he's fucked.
Span.
Yes, sorry. Good correction. And another juiced underline. Fight not start round 4 minus 300. I think I'm going to parlay that with that peak fight not going the distance because they're basically putting this fight going more than 15 minutes at 25%. Dude, Span's heart will implode past the 10-minute mark with Nikita Krylov on top of him. So this shit is not going into the
And
championship rounds.
I feel pretty good that Nikita is not getting guillotined. Like he will
Yeah.
roll, flip, he'll do a bunch of shit to get out of there.
His jiu-jitsu is getting way better, way better. I
Jiu-jitsu,
mean,
yo,
look,
his ground game is gotten pretty good.
yeah.
So
Like, I don't know what the hell this guy got really serious about training or
so I
something,
don't really
so
mind like playing Nikita, and then if you want a little bit of protection, like you put a little tiny bit on spam by KO. I think Nikita. I'm taking Nikita in this. Like I'm betting Nikita in this fight.
yeah. I mean, I really think Span round 1 plus 470 combined with, Krylov money line seems like a winning formula.
I do feel though
Um,
that I don't think Nikita looked to grapple early.
really?
I don't think he's gonna shoot a
Um,
double leg on him though.
I'm almost positive that Krylov is finishing this fight in the 2nd or 3rd round.
What do we
So
got that on
do with
props?
information, plus 650 plus,
I think
1,300
I would I
on
would
that.
I would stab the there's a stab the third round one.
That's 1,300, yeah. I mean, yeah. I just think that, Span will implode, if he gets that far. Dude, the way he got submitted by Anthony Smith, bro, what the fuck was that? I
Tell me
mean, he made Smith
the
look
guy folds the tent, man. Like, he's
Yeah.
dangerous early for sure. Like he'll knock a lot of guys. Like I wouldn't want to fight this guy in a bar, but in a UFC fight, no.
I won like 4 units on Spann in his last fight. I mean, I bet Spann round 1 and the under 1.5. Easy cash there, and I'm selling stocks right away here. There's no need to keep riding this train. He hit his win condition a few times in a row. Bro, I mean, the last time he won a fight outside of round 1 was a split decision with Sam Alvey.
He
Come
hasn't
on,
really
guys.
fought too many
Kr
kickers either. Like I feel like
Yeah.
Krylov wins by
Kryllov's fight the
knockout.
way better
Head
way
kick.
better
I hope Krylov by head kick. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, the Krylov main event era is here, and we got a great narrative going on here. We got the Black History Month narrative against the Ukraine war narrative.
1 year to
And
the day, Martian. Practically.
yeah, or yeah, it was started in February of 2020. So like, the Ukrainian History Month, Black History Month, they're going neck and neck, and they're
There's
squaring off
no
in this main
Ukrainian
event.
History Month, bro.
Now there is,
But
Where Nikita Krylov is starting it on Saturday night. I'll tell you that.
also the best fight of the weekend, you got what's his name?
Amosov.
Amosov, another Ukrainian guy, actually fought in the war, unlike Nikita. So that is a strike on Nikita's record. He's think more Russian than
They're the same price right now. Minus
Ukrainian.
161, minus
Oh, how
162.
are these all coincidences? Like I'm gonna be in Dominican Republic when Jose's kicking off the card. You got February 25th the fight card. February 24th was when the war started. Come on, guys! Like these are not coincidences. So
Sounds
I
good.
would parlay Nikita and Amosov. It's a joke, but
Um,
that Amosov fight
I
is
think it'll hit.
amazing. Love that fight.
It'll hit.
Love Logan
So
Storley
this week
too.
I like Jose Johnson money line, Charles Johnson live, Victor Martinez money line, uh, and Dante May's money line, and Nikita Krylov money
We
line as
we
well.
like a
So
lot of there's a lot of bets. There's a decent amount of bets this week. I feel this is a
yeah,
solid card. This card's
I
not bad.
I mean, like I said, 11 of these fights are in the minus 100 plus 100 range. So there's a lot of bettable lines
Not a
out
bad
there.
card at all.
I like.
You put fights like these together every week. I feel like nobody's gonna be happy. But when you fucking put on what was the
Mm,
shit fight last week that they put on?
Nah, these fights. I mean, these fights are kind of bad, but we're looking
Not
at
that bad, dude.
we're diving deep. There's 7 fighters making their UFC
Yeah, but
debut.
they're not that
I mean,
bad. That isn't
they're-
necessarily always
mm,
bad.
that's true, but I mean, so I did the math on this. After this weekend, there will be 38 fighters making their UFC debut in 2023, and like unless you're you're like us who are studying all these fighters and before they come in, how the fuck is anybody going to keep up with all these new guys? I mean, just every card there's 4, 5, 6. There at that one card with the road to the UFC, there were 10 fighters making their UFC debut. So it's I don't know. We're in contender series season. A couple months from now, we'll be in the
Yeah,
full
but
swing of
I mean,
things.
last week they had Lena Landsberg, they had fucking Demba, Juan Carlito, fucking William Knight.
Yeah.
Fights last week sucked dick.
Well, Cowan-Perez, Deaton, Fernandez,
Oh,
Peak, all those
Cowan-Perez,
guys suck.
that's a great fight, dude. That's a
Nah,
fine fight for the women division.
that's a LFA prelim,
I'd
bro.
rather
Come on,
watch that than Lena Landsberg, dog.
that's true. Yeah, well, yeah, she's a
She's
yeah.
retired.
She
Well, happy
retired, so
retirement
she
to the
retired.
warden. See her off.
Yep. She's no longer the elbow queen though because Silva took
Yeah,
that title. What the hell are we talking
on
about this bitch
the
for? We got a
on the Bellator card, there's some good fights in the Bellator card as well. I feel. I can't give away to
I don't know any
some
of
of
these.
my.
Jeremy Kennedy will probably win his
There's a
fight.
few fights. Like I'm interested in the
It's always
Carl.
fun when they
I'm
go.
interested in the Carl Moore fight. I'm interested in the main event. Obviously, I'm interested in Logan versus Quirley. I don't know how to fucking.
Queally. One thing I'll give Bellator credit for is you can put any quality card in front of an Irish crowd and they'll be going crazy. What is what is up with the UFC now? I mean, they don't care about like these markets. Ireland is a big market and Bellator goes
That
there.
is strange. They definitely have lightened it up on the European cards.
Oh, big time.
Like you,
They need to get
I don't
back
know
to that.
what their quota was before, but they were, I don't know. They're definitely behind on that. But I think we can wrap it
Yeah,
up there.
well, I'll be in touch with Dana and tell him to get shit in order. But all right, that'll do it, everybody. Hope you all enjoyed the podcast. Hope you all win some bets this weekend. Enjoy the fights, and we'll see you all before the next UFC card. Peace out, everyone.